Welcome. This is Majesty Sussex Report, and I'm Antonio. Thank you for taking some of your valuable time to spend it here with us. This summer brought a storm of headlines surrounding It Ends With Us, the first of several anticipated movie adaptations of Colleen Hoover's novels. What should have been a milestone moment for Blake Lively, the film's lead, became a crucible of controversy. Criticism swirled around her demeanor on the red carpet, her social media posts, and promotional interviews. The online consensus, Lively had failed to convey the gravity of the film's central theme, domestic violence. Adding fuel to the fire, detractors accused her of blending her business ventures, hair care and alcohol, with the movie's promotion. Meanwhile, whispers of creative and personal discord with director Justin Baldoni, who also is the co-star and producer, only deepened the public's appetite for drama. And yet, as the storm raged, one detail became glaringly apparent. While Lively's reputation was plummeting, Baldoni's seemed to flourish.
Boom, he got the rights to the movie, Blake got casted, and biddy boom, biddy bam, we're here and we're ready to really just tell the story of people going through domestic violence. So from the beginning, it is made very, very clear, and even in the way that Justin has been doing his interviews for his marketing and his PR of this movie, it's very clear that he was attempting to make this book into a sensitive representation of the issue which is presented, a very, very serious and sensitive issue. But he comes here and he's just like, yeah, we're going to really make this modest and demure. You guys know the trend and I'm really, really loving it, but let's actually be serious. He was really just ready to, make this a serious movie that could really impact a lot of people in a positive way. Meanwhile, Blake comes into this movie, and I don't know if she's read the books or whatnot, or if she's read it and she just ignored it. But to her, this is a cute girly pop movie. This is a movie for her to input her style, input her music taste, and make a movie for the girlies where they can have fun. To Blake, this was her Barbenheimer moment. Now, I know a few people are not online as much.
There's parts you may not agree with, or you may think, wow, I hadn't thought of it that way. And I really appreciated that sort of look at this material. At the same time as all that serious stuff is going on, there's a pretty interesting romantic movie, like a rom-com, if you will. The beginning of the film does have some like sweet, cute moments where I was sort of laughing and smiling, coupled with these intense moments. And that's a rare thing for a movie to pull off, to actually have you emotionally invested in the characters, the seriousness of the plot, but still also have some levity. This film does it, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. It's well done. The acting, the story, twists and plots and turns. While you may assume and see things coming, as I sort of did, I was still on that edge of my seat of just like, whoa. And there are a few moments I was like, whoa. And overall, I got to say, that's what I want in my movies. I want them to challenge me. I want them to make me emotional. I want me to feel invested with these characters. And It Ends With Us pulled that off.
The phrase truth is stranger than fiction has never been more apt. Hollywood and Buckingham Palace, two titans of public spectacle, now find themselves intertwined not by glitz and glamour, but by the sinister mechanism of reputation destruction. At the heart of these dramas are two women, Blake Lively and Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex. Both accomplished, adored, and systematically targeted by forces that profit from their undoing. Blake Lively's recent lawsuit against Justin Baldoni and his cohort at Wayfair Studios is a chilling expose of how power operates behind the scenes. Allegations include coercion, harassment, and an orchestrated campaign to sully her image. Supported by a mountain of receipts, emails, text messages, and deliberate strategies to weaponize public perception. And yet, for those who have followed the near 8 years war waged against Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, this pattern is hauntingly familiar.
New York Times, they say, in advance of the release of the film, nearly all cast members chose to appear in public separately from Justin Baldoni, given his on-set behavior. Justin Baldoni became concerned that the public would discover that something is much bigger under the surface on information and belief, alluding to the complaints lodged by Blake Lively and others. At that point, Justin Baldoni pivoted away from the film's marketing plan to explain his absence from the rest of the cast. He shifted his focus away from a message of female triumph to instead capitalize on female trauma. After the film's premiere, Mr. Baldoni changed his Instagram profile, canceled lighthearted social media posts, and instructed his team to look for survivors' reactions and support, all in an effort to quickly shift his own public narrative to focus solely on survivors and domestic violence organizations. He used victims of sexual violence to make himself look good after he sexually harassed a woman on his set. And he did that in an effort to destroy her career. And we couldn't have known that this was exactly what was happening, but the fact that the public narrative around it was not questioning of him at all.
Once upon a time, Prince Harry was Britain's golden boy. His cheeky grin, military service, and genuine connection with the public elevated him to a level of popularity that at times eclipsed even Queen Elizabeth II. Meghan Markle, in the meanwhile, was a star on the rise in her own right. Her role as Rachel Zane in Suits had made her a household name. She graced red carpets, appeared on shows like Harry King Live, and used her growing platform to advocate for women's rights throughout initiatives with the UN. When Harry and Meghan's engagement was announced, the world seemed to pause in celebration. It was a historic moment after all. A black biracial woman marrying into one of the world's most exclusive and tradition-bound institutions. But what should have been a fairy tale quickly devolved into a cautionary tale. Much like Blake Lively's experience, Meghan became the target of a meticulously planned campaign to erode her credibility and public image. British tabloids embarked on what can only be described as a drip, drip, drip strategy, slowly feeding the public derogatory timbits. She was straight out of Compton. Her mother was part of a gang, and she had, exotic blood. Prince Harry, protective and outraged, released a statement demanding an end to the harassment, but the tide had only begun to swell.
Group. Now let's look at some of these messages that were obtained via subpoena. So Jennifer Abel, publicist, sent this to Melissa Nathan, the PR crisis manager. She said, "Of course you can do that, but I do think he needs to know. I'm going to confidentially send you something he's texting me and Jamie on the side just to arm you before this call. I think you guys need to be tough and show the strength of what you guys can do in these scenarios. He wants to feel like she can be buried. He wants to feel like she can be buried. No, this sounds like a really good guy. We actually shouldn't question any of his actions. She responded by saying, of course, but you know when we send over documents, we can't send over the work we will or could do, because that could get us in a lot of trouble. Because it's fully here in all the screenshots and we're going to keep going through them. She said, we can't write it down to him. We can't write, we will destroy her. We will go to this. We will do this. We will do this. We will do this. We can't write, we will destroy her. That's what we're going to do, though. He has to look at it as an information document for us to be armed with. That's all. Imagine if a document saying all the things that he wants ends up in the wrong hands. Oh no, that would suck. Cut to the document being in our hands. Oh, here's a fun little text from Justin. He sent a screenshot saying, this is what we would need. By the way, it's a screenshot of a thread that says Hailey Bieber's history of bullying many women and not just Selena Gomez throughout the years. A thread.
So this is when the smear campaign went into overdrive for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and Meghan. The turning point came with Harry and Meghan's tour to Australia, New Zealand, and the South Pacific. The crowds adored them, much like Blake Lively's audience adores her. But in the Windsor family, such adoration is dangerous because you cannot be seen or even given the impression that you are upstaging more senior players. And who might be more senior than Prince Harry, the heirs to the throne? Leaks began to pour from the royal household. Stories of Meghan's supposed diva behavior and bullying staff were planted in tabloids. The Royal Rota, the British press corps with exclusive access to the family, well, they started pumping out daily articles vilifying Meghan. Piers Morgan, Angela Lavin, and a bunch of other royal correspondents became the public faces of this campaign, launching tirade after tirade.
Baldoni text message screenshot to his publicist. Hey, just landed. What is the TikTok strategy? I'd like you guys to start posting me only talking about domestic violence and clips of why this movie is so important. So all of those videos that people were posting comparing the way Blake Lively talked about it, where it's like, you know what? We're coming here to celebrate female survivors and it's a message of hope and triumph. Wear your florals. That became such a thing of like hate for her when she was following the contract. And he explicitly went outside the contract to position himself as the most incredible male feminist. Ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing. And by the way, Justin Baldoni also texted his publicist a little bit after and said, also, I need you guys to really be on all the stories I'm tagged in. I think you should let all the people DM me so you can see people's reactions to film and I can be reposting everything. These next 36 hours are crucial and we need to be on it. Looking at everything, finding the most emotional and touching content from survivors supporting this film and reposting. Need you to be finding survivors, sharing their stories and amplifying them on my page and TikTok. So that means he is explicitly, intentionally going out of his way to use domestic violence victims to protect his own image, a sexual harasser. Yeah, now what? Now what? The publicist Jennifer Abel said to the PR crisis manager Melissa Nathan, I'm having reckless thoughts of wanting to plant pieces this week of how horrible Blake is to work with, just to get ahead of it. She's putting us through hell. I'm having reckless thoughts of wanting to plant pieces this week. Plant pieces? This is literal supervillain shit trying to ruin Blake Lively's life. Y'all, by the way, thought that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds weren't going to come out with they're rich. I think I already off the record spoke to the I already off the record spoke to the editor of Daily Mail because she's my friend. I already spoke to the editor of Daily Mail because she's my friend. My friend is the editor of Daily Mail. Cut to Daily Mail posting this on August 16th. Is Blake Lively said to be canceled? String of hard to watch videos that have surfaced following Tone Deaf Q&A to promote It Ends With Us could tarnish lot of stuff about it. It is interesting that she's like, yeah, I actually had an off-the-record conversation with the editor at the Daily Mail. She's a close personal friend of mine. And then they post this stuff while being hired to. It's not like there's theories. This is evidence. Oh! If you scroll on to the next page, Melissa says she's ready when we are. Theater, the Daily Mail is ready when we are. No, it's actually cool that you can use money to buy the news. So, look at this, by the way. This is an employee of the PR crisis team sent this to the publicist of Justin Baldoni and said, "You guys will love this." It's a TikTok video, but they continue basically saying that Blake needs to divorce Ryan because he's made her into a meme. He's ruining her biggest movie of the year, forcing her to ostracize Justin, rewriting the script, etc. You guys will love this. If this is your job, if this is what you do, is intentionally destroy the lives of innocent people for sexual harassers, it's not like a criminal defense lawyer where it's like, well, everybody does have a right to a fair defense, like under the law. It's not like that. You are being paid to artificially create the destruction of somebody's life who is the victim. Really sad because it just shows you how people really want to hate on women. You are the reason that they are hating on women. What the heck? I'm like, bruh. Me looking at Melissa Nathan like, bruh, what the heck? What the heck? I'm like, bruh, what? It's
Both the palace and Hollywood claims neutrality. The royals famously adhere to the motto, never complain, never explain. While Hollywood prides itself on progressive values, yet both institutions enabled, if not actively orchestrated, these smear campaigns. Blake Lively's complaint paints a vivid picture of complicity. Baldoni's team coordinated with PR executives and even went behind her back to consult with her fitness trainer about how much she weighs. What's perhaps most damning in both narratives is the profitability of hate. For Blake Lively, her alleged mistreatment was part of a broader campaign to boast Baldoni's profile at her expense. For Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, the vitriol turned into a cottage industry. Tabloids, YouTubers, and social media accounts built entire, I would love to say empires, on demonizing her, capitalizing on clicks and outrage. The monetization of hate underscores a sobering truth. In our digital age, destroying someone's reputation isn't just a tactic, it's a business model. In Meghan's case, Prince Harry's recent legal battle against news group newspapers, NGN, may hold the key to exposing the palace's role. A judge recently granted Prince Harry and his lawyers access to emails between NGN staff and palace employees. Correspondence that could reveal collusion in leaking defamatory stories. It's a potential smoking gun, one that could lay bare how an institution, supposedly steeped in dignity, actively participated in character assassination.
Which one of you had the great idea to take this route? Okay, since neither one of you are speaking, I'll talk to the people. Folks, please subscribe. Drop us a comment, share and like. Please remember to turn your notification on. Thank you.
During shooting, Blake Lively, the co-star, had complained that the men had repeatedly violated physical boundaries and made sexual and other inappropriate comments to her. Their studio, Wayfair, agreed to provide a full-time intimacy coordinator, bring in an outside producer, and put other safeguards on set. In a side letter to Mrs. Lively's contract, signed by Mr. Heath, the studio also agreed not to retaliate against the actress. Wow, can you imagine that? Like she had to put that in there. Like, by her speaking up, there's the risk that they will retaliate against her. Yes. Oh boy. Okay, so they have a meeting, and it says here, let me just quickly find. Okay, Miss Lively also had the agreed upon right to have a representative present. She chose her husband, of course, given that the meeting was about repeated sexual harassment and other disturbing behavior by Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. These guys, man, like, they have no freaking shame. No shame. Man. As discussed in detail below, Ms. Lively was forced to address concerns about Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath's misconduct with them directly, and began doing so months before filming began. The concerns she raised were not only for herself but for the other female cast and crew, some of whom had also spoken up. The January 4th meeting occurred only after Wayfair had rebuffed Miss Lively's efforts repeatedly. So she tried to meet with them repeatedly, and they just kept ignoring her. Oh, man. During the January 4th meeting, the parties discussed in detail the appropriate conduct that Miss Lively, her employees, and other cast and crew experienced at the hands of Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. After the list below was reviewed and discussed in its entirety, all parties present agreed that the outlined conduct would cease. Okay, let's get into some of this, or all of it.
So these are things that Justin Baldoni and Mr. Heath cannot do anymore. No more showing nude videos or images of women, including producer's wife to Blake Lively and or her employees. Number 2, no more mention of Mr. Baldoni or Mr. Heath's previous pornography addiction or Blake Lively's lack of pornography consumption to Blake Lively or to other crew members. No more discussions to Blake Lively and or her employees about personal experiences with sex, including as it relates to spouses or others. Kind of weird, Justin. No more mention to Blake Lively or her employees of personal times that physical consent was not given in sexual acts as either the abuser or the abused. Okay, so seems like he has issues. No more descriptions of their own genitalia to Blake Lively. Guys, no more descriptions of their own genitalia to Blake Lively. That's sexual harassment. No more jokes or disparaging comments to be made to Blake Lively and or her employees about HR complaints Wayfair has already received on set, or about missing the HR meeting. So basically saying that Justin Baldoni was missing HR meetings and he was complaining about the HR complaints. No more inquiries by Mr. Baldoni to Blake Lively trainer without her knowledge or consent to disclose her weight. Now, no more mention by Mr. Baldoni of him speaking to Blake Lively's dead father. What the fuck? Number 11, the intimacy coordinator must be present at all times when Blake Lively is on set in scenes with Mr. Baldoni. No more personal physical touching of or sexual comments by Mr. Baldoni or Mr. Heath to be tolerated by Blake Lively and or any of her employees, as well as any female cast or crew without their express consent. By the way, Blake Lively clearly was doing this not just for her, but for the other castmates and her employees and stuff. I mean, come on. And the next one literally says no more improvising of kissing. All intimate touch must be choreographed in advance with Blake Lively and an intimacy coordinator. No biting or sucking of lip without Blake Lively consent. And all intimate on-camera touch conversations must be in character, not spoken from Mr. Baldoni to Blake Lively personally. Why do you think she has to include things like this? Thanks. All actors participating with Blake Lively in intimate scenes involved her being in any state of nudity or simulated nudity must be classified as active working actors, not friends of the director or producers, and must be pre-approved by Blake Lively. Meaning what? Bro was bringing his friends on set because Blake Lively was naked. Dog. No more filming of any Blake Lively nudity without a fully executed SAG-compliant nudity rider in place. Any such footage already shot without this rider in place and in direct violation of SAG requirements may not be used without Blake Lively and her legal representative's prior written consent. So were they shooting footage without a SAG-compliant nudity rider and it was just Blake Lively naked, and you wonder why she was upset and distancing herself from it? There are multiple many points that go into this whole thing of the intimate scenes, really putting in place a lot of guidelines, because clearly boundaries had been crossed. But like this one, number 20, no more entering, attempting to enter, interrupting, pressuring, or asking Blake Lively to enter her trailer or the makeup trailer by Mr. Heath or Mr. Baldoni while she is nude for any reason. This guy's like, he is a weird creep. No more pressing by Mr. Baldoni to sage any of Blake Lively's employees. So he was literally there going, hey, naked, hey, get naked, hey, oh, come here, naked, okay, let me talk about my penis, hey, let me sage you. What about number 27? No more adding of sex scenes, oral sex, or on-camera climaxing by Blake Lively outside of the scope of the script Blake Lively approved when signing on to the project. No more asking or pressuring Blake Lively to cross physical picket lines. That would mean asking her to basically forego the strike. So I guess allegedly they were pressuring her to do that, which would have absolutely added on to the amount of hate that she would have gotten. Now, by the way, he said, leading up to and in connection with the release of the film, during the summer of 2024, Miss Lively and fellow cast members promoted the film in accordance with the marketing plan created and delivered by the film's distributor, Sony. Miss Lively and other cast members were under a contractual obligation to render promotional services in accordance with the marketing plan. The marketing plan directed the cast to focus more on Lily's strength. Lily is the character that Blake Lively played. Lily's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about domestic violence, and to avoid talking about this film that makes it feel sad or heavy. It's a story of hope. One of the biggest things that Blake Lively got hate for was her talking about this not as a dark and sad story about domestic violence, but as a story of hope. Because that's how she did it. She talked about it like that. She talked about it as a story of resilience and of hope and of strength and overcoming. That's how she talked about it. That's why she would be like, bring your florals. People destroyed her for saying, bring your florals. And I think it's tone. Leading up to the film's release, Mr. Baldoni abruptly pivoted away from the film's marketing plan and the types of publicity activities in which he had previously participated. What the public did not know was that Mr. Baldoni and his team did so in an effort to explain why many of the film's cast and crew had unfollowed Mr. Baldoni on social media and were not appearing with him in public. What the public also did not know was that this was the beginning of a multi-tiered plan that Mr. Baldoni and his team described as a social manipulation designed to destroy Miss Lively's reputation. That plan was backed by virtually unlimited resources. Wayfarer's co-founder, co-chairman, and leading financier is a multi-billionaire Steve Sarowitz, who divulged at the film's New York premiere on August 6, 2024, that he was prepared to spend $100 million to ruin the lives of Miss Lively and her family. So what was, at the time, being represented as, oh, it's the battle between a up-and-coming person of color director, Justin Baldoni, versus the evil Hollywood elite Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds. He's just a scrappy guy who's talking about things because he genuinely cares, and she doesn't care at all. Meanwhile, she is getting sexually harassed on a constant basis on that set by him. And all the shit that people are posting being like, oh my God, look how cool he is literally coordinated as part of a plan.
It's a lot, isn't it? And there's so much more. I mean, some of the things that are alleged and happened are just awful. Unprofessional, just absolutely awful. But I will stop it here in regards to that. There is so much more I could still bring to you, but I think you've gotten the point by now. Now, Blake Lively's lawsuit and Prince Harry's legal pursuit against NGN provides us with a very rare glimpse into the machinery of public destruction. Both cases show how modern culture, often lauded as organic and authentic, is anything but. From Hollywood sets to royal palaces, the strings are pulled by those in power with money and vested interest. You know, there is a quote usually. They say this is a reminder that social media isn't real. Now, maybe a TikTok cliche, right? But it's one we must heed. The stories of Blake Lively and Meghan are cautionary tales of how easily narratives can be manipulated, of how fragile truth becomes when outrage and lies turn into currency. And yet, both women and Harry persist. They remind us that while the machinery of hate is relentless, so too is the human spirit. Their fights for justice, whether in a courtroom or through sheer resilience, may not dismantle these systems entirely, but they cast light into the shadows. In a world so eager to tear down, especially women, they challenge us to ask, how long will we keep playing this game? And perhaps more importantly, when will we start questioning the puppeteers pulling the strings? In the swirling vortex of allegations and counterclaims, Justin Baldoni and the others named in Blake's lively complaint have vowed to fight back, promising lawsuits worth millions and revelations that will supposedly shock the public. Look, I'm not naive, perhaps a little. It's clear both sides are using us to some degree or another. We, the audience, as pawns in their larger battle. Whether Blake's complaint is exaggerated or whether the screenshots only tell part of the story, one undeniable fact remains. There was a meeting on January, outlined and signed by Justin himself, where Blake brought her husband to address the issues and demanded for the harassment to stop. And Justin and the parties involved all signed it. So if nothing that she outlined, those 20 plus points that she outlined, were not true, then they shouldn't have signed it. And there's no excuse about, oh, well, we needed to do it because, we're under pressure. We needed to do it because we would have lost money. We needed to do it because they have so much money that they could have. No. Because one of the co-founders is a billionaire. So money is not an issue here. Okay? He signed it. They signed it. That alone disqualifies him from being the man he professed to be in Man Enough. Disqualifies him. An evolved man, a truly evolved man, would never have engaged in behaviors that forced his female lead to amend her contract to escape harassment. An evolved man would have acted with integrity from the outset. These are not the actions of the feminist ally Baldoni has presented himself as. While I may not grasp the intricate dealings of these entertainment titans or the full scope of their machinations. I do know this. Perception is never 2020. We are manipulated constantly. Fed, curated narratives designed to shape our opinions. It is our responsibility to look beyond the facade, the mirage, and question the stories that are sold to us. Because sometimes the truth lies not in what we see, but in the spaces between. Here's the harsh reality. It is women, more often than not, who paid the ultimate price. Their reputation, careers, and mental well-being are shattered, while their male counterparts often emerged unscathed, if not sometimes celebrated. Even Baldoni's own PR team and agents reportedly marveled at how effectively the campaign to discredit Blake Lively had gone. Society is disturbingly quick to believe the worst about women, primed and eager to tear them down. And in this willingness to hate, we expose ourselves, not just as pawns in someone else's game, but as active participants in perpetrating a culture that punishes women for existing, for thriving, and for daring to speak out.